Hello everyone! Welcome back to Drawn by Annie channel. This is me, Annie, and I will be drawing for you today. Grab your tea, coffee and snacks and let's dive into today's video. For those of you who has been on this channel for a little while, in my previous video I made a sketchbook spread featuring Rapunzel from Tangled movie, and as you can see I have this soak-through effect from alcohol-based markers coloring on the other side of the page. And so in order to not waste this page, I decided I would make a simple drawing of same character, so Rapunzel, with a specific idea that was in my mind. For some reason I saw her using her own hair as a swing, and also I wanted to make a swirl composition, so I just decided I would do these two ideas together and use my acrylic paint based markers to color such an idea, because as in many other previous videos that I've used them, they are very good in covering the bleed through effect of alcohol based markers. So I figured that this would be a perfect practice for me, and also using an otherwise unusable sketchbook spread. As you can see, half of the spread is pretty heavily affected with the bleeding of the markers, and also I'm planning to color the other drawing that is on the other side of this left page of the spread, so it's also going to be bled through, so it's 100% not going to hurt if I'm gonna color the whole sketchbook spread with acrylics, while at the same time fulfilling the ideas that I have had in my mind. I don't know about you, but I really like the swirls and I try to put them as much in my drawings as I possibly can. I even have specific stylization techniques of my little chibi drawings where I'm also using swirls instead of ear oracles, if that's the correct name, and also eyelids, so it looks really stylized. Maybe I will show you in one of my future drawings. But here I wanted to make a swirl like a center of composition, if that makes sense. So I drew Chibi Rapunzel using her hair as the swing and her hair wrapping around the Chibi figure in a giant swirly shape. And this is a pretty easy drawing to do, so if you are a beginner or advanced artist like me, I highly encourage you to try this out because it's really fun to play with the shape like swirl. I don't know if it's a very popular shape to use or not, but I don't see this often, so that's one of the reasons I also wanted to use the swirl shape as a main composition point. So I sketched out the chibi drawing and then I just kind of went freehand with the swirls. I didn't really stress about it being perfect or like very even, because hair is not solid and it doesn't have to have a firm shape, so I just went whatever wobbly swirly feeling that I had and I put it on paper with my sketch pencils. And for the coloring I started with the base color of the Rapunzel's hair and then went immediately for the background color, just to make it clear where the hair will be ending, and in general it gives me a more clear idea on what the drawing will look like, because this is pretty much the main shapes that I have on this whole sketchbook spread, and also the bleeding markers will not overwhelm me too much. After I placed all the base colors, it will be much easier to dive deeper into the smaller details and covering up the darkest bled through color patches. To do so, I am using lighter colors just to balance out the darkest colors behind them and then cover up with the colors that I want to be on top, because acrylic paints is not a transparent medium for the most part, and whatever color I'm going to place on top is going to stay on top and nothing will actually be seen from underneath it. So I'm using this feature to my advantage in this case, because the page will look very clean and nobody would even be able to tell that something was wrong with it before I did the coloring of the drawing. As you can see, just a few layers is enough to cover the whole thing up, and from then on I'm just working on the details and putting more colors on Rapunzel's dress and also some highlights and shading to her long and fluffy and silky hair. Speaking of hair coloring, since Rapunzel has very long hair, it's a nice spot for hair coloring practice. And what I usually do is place a base color on the hair first. In Rapunzel's case is a yellow color. And then I kind of look and see what shape of the hairstyle or how the hair is laying down on the character's shoulders, for example, if it's a long hair. So I'm trying to kind of mark out how the hair is going to be shaped and where the shades and highlights are going to be, depending on the light source, of course. Typically, I don't do any complicated light sources, so here I am just going with the very simple, straightforward light source. And honestly, in this specific case, there is no very defined light source. It's just like a general one, you know. But let's say that the light source is on the top right corner. What I usually do is to put the highlights on the right side of the object, or the hairstyle in this case, and then shades on the other side of the same object. So highlights and shades are on the opposite sides of each other. So you know, you cannot put the highlight in the center of the shadow, right? If it's shaded, it cannot be highlighted, and vice versa also. So I just keep this in mind when I'm coloring the hair. But there's this thing called reflected light. I rarely use it in drawings without any background or a detailed environment, because in drawings like this usually it's kind of abstract. So what usually works for me is a basic one light source, just to kind of show that the character that I'm drawing is 3D and it has some volume and shape in it. For example, I have not placed any highlights behind the swing here, just to show that this is behind the character and it's in a bit of a shade, but still has some light to it because Rapunzel's hair is pretty silky and it has a lot of shine in it. So I just skipped the highlights and did a little bit of shading strokes on that part. Usually when I color a character's hair, I have at least 3 colors that I use for the hair. This is the main and base color. Then there's a highlight color and also a shading color. It has all the minimum requirements to show that the hair is having some sort of hairstyle or shape, and also to showcase that the hair is shiny and stuff. But it of course depends on the character's design, because some characters have multicolored hair, for example, or there are some certain stylistic choices to make the color of the hair a little bit more realistic, let's say. It usually has some analogous color palette on its own, like a couple of more hues to add some volume and some color variety to the hair. I have a very old video of mine where I was coloring my original characters, Arietta and Ariana. They're illustrated in a sketchbook spread, looking at each other like if they were in a mirror, because they're twins. And in that drawing, I used a lot of brown color shades, and the hair came out so detailed and so colorful, and it looks amazing. But it's a little bit also on the medium as well, because alcohol-based markers, they are mixing and they are semi-transparent, so you can kind of play around more with the blending colors, which is not usually the case for acrylic paint based markers. They are not really blendable unless you're using some water or trying to blend it right away as you're putting the color, which is quite challenging if you ask me. So when I'm coloring with acrylic paint markers, I prefer to use so-called cell shading technique, which is basically using shapes for shading and highlights without actually blending colors. So you're putting colors exactly where they belong, and you don't have any colors in between or blending or layering or whatsoever. But the general principles of shading and highlights still apply, you know. I know I'm not really good at explaining things, but I'm just kind of trying to go with my gut here, because I have done my observation and I've kind of discovered whatever techniques work for me with trial and errors, and also lots of tutorials tutorials online. So yeah, if you have any questions, I would suggest you look up for tutorials or something. But anyway, that's kind of it. Mo has been helping me to draw this tiny chibi drawing all this time, and I hope you enjoyed his and my company as well. Thank you so much for joining me on the drawing process of this cute little Rapunzel drawing. I hope you like the results as well. If you like my work and you want to support my channel, you can hit that like and subscribe button. Leave your thoughts down in the comments, and if you have any requests for me, you can also leave them down in the comments and I will try to fulfill them. And for now, I'm wishing you a wonderful day ahead and hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye!